Hey there, night owls, welcome to the Voice of Darkness. I'm thrilled you've joined me on this journey into the unknown. Before we dive in, let me know, where in the world are you tuning in from tonight? Drop your city or country in the comments and let's see just how far our darkness reaches. Chapter 1, The Unexpected Invitation. Olivia paced the polished wooden floor of her modest Munster townhouse, phone pressed loosely to her ear. Late afternoon sunlight filtered through the lace curtains, painting golden patterns on the walls as she listened to the voice on the other end. The request was simple, almost quaint. Our estate, secluded at the edge of town, would be honored by your performance. She frowned. An estate? In Munster, a quiet London borough known more for its antique bookshops than for grand manners. Thank you for the invitation, she replied, her tone steady. But my team and I are booked solid for the next month. We're committed to a series of shows in Leeds. Olivia glanced at the large calendar tacked above her piano. Every square for the coming 4 weeks was filled, morning rehearsals, afternoon interviews, evening concerts. Her career had been on an unbroken ascent, each booking more prestigious than the last. Turning down work was rare, but necessary to keep her schedule intact. The voice hesitated, then offered a tantalizing promise. Double payment, Ms. Carter. We require only a 1-hour set. We understand your commitments, but this is an opportunity you won't want to miss. Olivia's heart skipped. Double pay for just one performance, enough to cover her rent for 3 months, plus a modest bonus for her 5-piece ensemble. Financially, it was irresistible. She closed her eyes, imagining the looks on her bandmates' faces when she shared the news. Guitarist Marcus, forever scouting vintage amplifiers, drummer Nina, always eager for the next challenge, bassist Emile, whose meticulous attention to rhythm anchored every piece, pianist Lila, Olivia's closest friend since their conservatory days, and saxophonist Andre, whose smooth improvisations elevated each song. They would leap at the chance to earn double their usual fee. And the location? Olivia asked. The voice cleared its throat. An old mansion on the outskirts, completely private. No other guests, no press. Just an intimate audience. The date is 2 weeks from tomorrow. Her pulse quickened. 2 weeks' notice was tight, but not impossible. She closed the distance to the window and peered out at the street below. A lone taxi meandered past. Beyond it, the city's hum felt distant. All right, she said, standing a little straighter. I'll discuss it with my team, but I'm confident we can prepare a set in time. As she hung up, a tremor of excitement rippled through her. New venues, unfamiliar audiences, these were the experiences that sharpened her edge as an artist. She crossed to the piano and let her fingers wander over the keys, testing a few chords as if summoning inspiration. The notes echoed in the empty room, filling it with possibility. Soon, she thought, she would know every detail of this mysterious estate, its hidden hallways, its forgotten corners, its secrets. For now, all she had was an unexpected invitation, and a promise of double pay. With a final resonant chord, Olivia made her decision. She would go. Whatever awaited her in that abandoned mansion, she would face it with courage, curiosity, and the unshakable confidence of a performer whose voice could light up any stage. Chapter 2, The Tempting Proposal. Olivia sank into the worn leather armchair in her dressing room, heart still racing from the call. The words, double payment, fluttered in her mind like golden butterflies. She stared down at her phone, willing the rational part of her brain to assert itself. They were already booked, the schedule was tight, and she trusted her team's judgment. But opportunity has a way of decking itself in glitter, especially when money is involved. She stood and crossed to the mirror, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. In the softly lit reflection, she saw not only a singer in mid-career bloom but a small army of professionals behind her every note, a guitarist, a drummer, a bassist, a pianist, a saxophonist, and a sound engineer. All of them relied on her choices to shape their own livelihoods. Moments later, she gathered everyone around her compact rehearsal space, its walls plastered with posters from past tours. Marcus, adjusting the tuning pegs on his vintage Telecaster, raised an eyebrow. "So what's this big deal?" he asked. Nina leaned back against the drum riser, tapping her drumsticks lightly. "You sounded excited," she said. Olivia recounted the invitation, an old mansion just outside Munster, a 1-hour set, complete privacy, and double their regular fee. Emil's fingers stilled on his bass neck as he whistled softly. "Double," he repeated. "For an hour? That's a month's rent in a weekend." Lila, perched at the electric piano, nodded vigorously. "It sounds too good to pass up." "But what's the catch?" she wondered. They debated practicalities, transport logistics, lighting and sound support in a derelict hall, the lack of press coverage. Andre, the saxophonist, tightened his lips. "If it's private, how will we get proper backline gear? A broken amp in an abandoned mansion isn't exactly ideal." Olivia pulled up the sparse details she'd been given. "They'll supply basic rigging, PA, mics, minimal backline. We bring our instruments, our sound guy oversees the setup." Nina drummed a pattern on her knee. "I've played stranger venues, factory floors, shipping containers, rooftops. But an empty mansion? That's next level weird." Her grin was contagious. "Still, double pay? I'm in." One by one, the team voiced cautious agreement. The money could fund new equipment, studio time, even a little holiday afterwards. They agreed to discuss the date, 2 weeks hence, and confirm within 24 hours. That evening, Olivia lay awake in her flat and weighed the decision. The mansion's owner had sounded cultivated, almost courtly, his voice smooth like polished mahogany. Yet there had been a tremor in his phrasing, an undercurrent of urgency that hinted at something unrevealed. Despite the unease, she felt a thrill, the chance to perform in a place steeped in mystery, away from the glare of paparazzi and the predictable glow of concert halls. By dawn, she drafted her reply, "We accept your proposal. Team confirms availability for the date specified. Please provide logistics and technical rider at your earliest convenience." As she tapped send, a hush settled over her. Chapter 3, Journey into Isolation. The cargo van rumbled to life beneath the fading light of dusk, its engine a low growl that echoed through Munster's narrow streets. Olivia climbed into the passenger seat, her guitar case balanced on her lap, while Marcus slid behind the wheel. In the back, Nina, Emil, Lila, Andre, and sound engineer Sam secured their instruments and equipment, guitar amps, drum risers, keyboard stands, microphone cables, into neat stacks. The routine of loading felt familiar and comforting, yet tonight carried a different tension, as if every rattle and squeak of the van spoke of things unseen. They left the city's glow behind within minutes. Streetlights dwindled, giving way to the soft silver of a rising moon. Beyond the last suburban houses lay a fringe of woods, their treetops dark against a lilac sky. Marcus guided them onto a narrow country lane, the asphalt scarred with potholes and bordered by ancient stone walls. Every twist in the road seemed to deepen the silence, broken only by the hum of tires and the occasional call of a lone owl. Emil leaned forward, peering through the windshield. "This road, it looks unkempt. Hardly traveled." Nina tapped out an offbeat rhythm on her thigh. "Perfect for a haunted mansion gig." Her laugh was a soft ripple, half teasing, half uneasy. All at once, the van's headlights caught the outline of a weathered sign. "Beware the Hollow Manor, by invitation only." Its peeling paint and crooked frame seemed strangely formal, as though warning visitors that some boundaries ought not to be crossed. Lila adjusted the collar of her jacket. "Well, we were invited." Her voice held a forced lightness. In the mirror, Olivia caught Sam's reflection, brows furrowed, lips pressed into a thin line as he checked levels on his mixer. The hush that had fallen felt heavier now. Beyond the sign, the lane narrowed further. Tall hedges pressed in on either side, their leaves rustling like whispered secrets in the chill breeze. A sudden gust rattled the van's doors, and for a moment, Marcus's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "Did you see that?" he asked, voice low. He pointed at something darting across the road, too quick to identify, but its shape was odd, sinewy, animalistic. The van slowed. Olivia's heart fluttered. She checked her watch. They had exactly 90 minutes until the appointed hour. No turning back. She exhaled and reached out to rest a hand on Marcus's arm. "Keep going," she said, steadying her voice. "We'll be there soon." Finally, the trees thinned and revealed the silhouette of the mansion atop a small rise. Its turrets and gables pierced the sky like a jagged crown, and its windows glowed faintly, as if the house itself watched their approach. The gravel driveway crunching beneath their wheels sounded unusually loud. At the gate, an iron arch stamped with ornate vines swung open on silent hinges, inviting them into the estate's overgrown courtyard. Olivia set her jaw and began gathering her gear. The air smelled of damp earth and decay, and a solitary raven perched on a broken statue let out a harsh cry. Her pulse quickened, but beneath the dread, a spark of exhilaration flickered. After all, they were. Chapter 4, The Eerie Performance. The heavy oak doors groaned as Olivia pushed them open, revealing a vast great hall lit only by flickering wall sconces. Shadows danced across peeling wallpaper and cracked marble floors. She paused in the threshold, heart pounding in her throat. The air smelled of damp stone and centuries of neglect. At the far end, her band members had already set up, Marcus testing his guitar amp, Nina tapping the snare drum, Emile adjusting bass levels, Lila running scales on her keyboard, Andre coaxing a soft trill from his saxophone, and Sam checking every cable with meticulous care. Olivia stepped onto the raised dais that served as their stage. A single spotlight, dim and wavering, illuminated her. She squared her shoulders and signaled to Sam. As the first synth pulse hummed through the PA, she closed her eyes and let her voice rise, clear and resonant. The opening notes of her latest single echoed, filling the cavernous space. But beneath the melody, other sounds, soft rustling, distant sighs, slithered through the corners of the hall. She hesitated for an instant, then pressed on. When she opened her eyes again, the audience materialized in the gloom. Dozens of figures draped in tattered garments stood motionless between the pillars. Their clothes were archaic, threadbare coats with tarnished brass buttons, frayed lace collars, long skirts that swept the dusty floor. They wore masks of rusted metal or carved bone, their faces hidden behind inscrutable visages. Olivia's breath hitched as she realized they swayed in time to the beat, but their movements were jerky, as if puppeteered by unknown strings. A chill slid down Olivia's spine, but she forced herself to smile and continued the chorus. She glanced at her bandmates. Nina's sticks hesitated in midair, Marcus's fingers hovered over strings, even Sam's head jerked as he searched for feedback in the soundboard. Yet they all kept playing, their professionalism shielding them from immediate panic. Olivia felt sweat bead at her temples. The audience's stillness was unsettling, no applause, no cheers, just an uncanny, synchronized sway. By the second verse, the atmosphere had thickened. The flickering sconces cast grotesque shadows, stretching elongated limbs across the walls. The dusty chandelier above rattled faintly, though no breeze stirred. As Olivia reached for a high note, she sensed something brushing past her heel. She looked down, a clawed foot, shod in cracked leather like an oversized animal's hoof, tread deliberately against the edge of the stage. Her pulse sped, her voice wavered, and a dissonant note cracked through the speakers. She swallowed hard, determined to finish. She smiled at the silent crowd, nodding to Nina for the bridge. The drummer caught her cue, unleashing a flurry of tribal rhythms that resonated through the room. But with each drumbeat, the audience's sway became more frenzied, more unnatural. their masked heads tilted in unison, following her every move. She felt their gaze, though unseen, burning into her. Chapter 5, Beastly Revelations. A heavy hush settled over the hall as Olivia wiped her brow, the afterglow of applause, or what she thought would be applause, fading into an uneasy stillness. She glanced down at the stage's edge and froze. There, half hidden by shadow, was a cluster of feet unlike any human appendage, gnarled, clawed, and covered in coarse fur. Each limb ended in a curved talon that scraped the wooden floor with deliberate slowness. Her breath caught. Marcus, mid-tune, froze as his guitar let out a single, keening note. Nina's drumsticks clicked against the rim, her eyes widening in disbelief. Emil's fingers slackened on his bass, and Lila's hands hovered above the keys, as if caught mid-dream. Even the air seemed to tighten, pressing against their lungs. Olivia forced herself to inhale. She crouched, peering closer. The creature's legs tapered into hunched haunches, as though part human, part bestial. Their skin, where fur didn't cling, was mottled and scaly, like aged leather. Her heart pounded, every instinct screamed to flee, yet curiosity held her rooted. A low rumble vibrated through the boards, signaling that the beasts had shifted. Eyes, hidden beneath ragged hoods, glimmered momentarily before receding into darkness. Olivia's pulse raced as she whispered, "What are they?" But her voice cracked, lost in the cavernous space. Sam, lurking behind the soundboard, found his voice first. "We need to stop," he hissed, reaching to cut the feed. But before he could, the figures before them stirred en masse. A guttural chorus of clicks and growls rose as the audience advanced, their talons tapping like skeletal rakes against the stage. Marcus signaled a halt, his thumb brushing a chord that died in the air. "Olivia, go," he urged, voice tight. Panic ignited within her chest, but she refused to abandon her team. Steadying her voice, she called out, "Everyone, retreat to the wings." Guiding Marcus and the others, she backed off the dais, her boots thudding against the floorboards. The beasts continued their creeping approach, depriving the group of space. In the dim glow, she spotted one reach behind a tattered curtain and drag something forward, a discarded mask, cracked and weathered like the rest. It lay at their feet, a silent invitation to join the ranks of the strange congregation. Nina grabbed Olivia's arm. "We can't leave our gear," she gasped. "It's too much." Andre shook his head. "Forget the instruments. We survive, or we don't." With trembling limbs, Olivia nodded and waved her teammates toward the nearest exit. They scrambled over cables, bypassed fallen candelabras, and stumbled into the corridor, pursued by the echo of claws. Corridors branched in twisting patterns, lined with portraits whose eyes seemed to follow them. Panic lent speed to their flight, but the mansion's layout conspired against them. Doors led to dusty lounges or decaying libraries, each more labyrinthine than the last. Olivia's panic threatened to overwhelm her, but she forced herself to recall the route they'd taken to arrive. Finally, through a narrow doorway, they burst into the grand foyer. The main door stood before them, massive, iron-bound, and ominously ajar. Shaking yet resolved, Olivia planted her hands against the cold wood and pushed. With a groan, the doors swung wide, revealing the moonlit courtyard beyond. They spilled outside, lungs burning with relief and horror. Behind them, the mansion's windows glowed with a faint, unnatural light. Something thumped within, an unearthly heartbeat reverberating through stone walls. Olivia turned to Marcus, voice barely more than a rasp, "Promise me, we never come back." He nodded, eyes fixed on the dark outline of the manor. In the silver haze of night, they fled across cracked flagstones, leaving every instrument, every cable, every echo of song behind. And as the creatures watched from shadowed arches, Olivia vowed that the world would never hear her final performance. Chapter 6, The Endless Dawn. A pale hush greeted Olivia as she blinked awake, every muscle aching from the frantic flight moments before. She found herself lying on a narrow cot in a small chamber off the mansion's east wing. The ornate wallpaper peeled in curling strips, and a single leaded window revealed a sky painted in streaks of peach and rose. Confusion rippled through her. The sun hung low, almost at the horizon, yet its light was stale, as though it had been ascending for hours. She swung her legs over the cot's edge and shook Marcus, who lay beside her in a makeshift bedroll. His eyes fluttered open, clouded with exhaustion. "How long?" he rasped, rubbing his face. Nina stirred in the corner, shoulders heaving as she sat up, hair tangled like spider webs. Emil and Lila lay in slumped repose against a dusty wardrobe, while Andre lay on the floor, saxophone cast aside like a discarded toy. Olivia rose unsteadily, the floorboards groaning beneath her weight. "We need to get out," she whispered, but her words floated in the chamber's still air. She peered at the window again, sunlight flooded the room, yet the shadows remained long. She checked her watch, its hands had stopped at 4:17 a.m. But this light, it should have vanished before dawn. She pressed a trembling palm to the cold glass. Outside, the courtyard was awash in golden radiance. The columns and statues stood immobile, bathed in morning's glow. Yet the birdsong she'd expected was absent. Instead, there was only the faint hum of machinery echoing through the trees. A sense of vertigo spun at the back of her mind. Time, it seemed, had fractured. Marcus steadied himself against the wall. "Did we sleep that long?" he asked, voice hollow. "Or not long enough?" She moved to the door and pushed it open. The narrow corridor stretched in both directions, bathed in the same unsetting light. Portraits looked down with eyes that seemed too alive. Olivia called softly, anyone else, but only her own echo replied. She hurried down the hall, finding doors ajar, rooms filled with antique furniture, drapes stiff with dust, and yet no sign of her team. Each empty chamber magnified her dread. When she reached the grand foyer, her breath caught. The massive front doors stood wide open, light pouring in as if the sunrise were trapped forever on the threshold. She stumbled onto the steps and peered out. No Marcus, no Nina, no echo of footsteps. The courtyard lay deserted, the gravel drive stretched into a pale horizon that never darkened. "Hello," she called, voice cracking. "Marcus?" "Nina?" The only answer was the rustle of wind through untrimmed hedges. Heart hammering, she stepped onto the stone flagstones and circled the mansion, calling names. The air was still, save for the relentless glow that banished shadows but offered no warmth. Finally, on the mansion's west side, she found her guitar case abandoned on the grass, its latches clicked shut. Kneeling, she pried it open. Her guitar lay untouched, strings slack with grime. A single sheet of music fluttered at the bottom, the opening bars of her final song, ink smudged as if traced by trembling fingers. Tears pricked her eye. Chapter 7, The Roadside Warning. Night had fallen into a velvet hush by the time Olivia finally stumbled onto the overgrown drive, her limbs trembling from exhaustion and fear. Behind her, the mansion's silhouette loomed like a malignant sentinel against the moonlit sky. She paused, listening for pursuit. Only silence answered. With every heartbeat, relief and dread warred within her chest. She turned to her bandmates, pale as specters, scattered along the gravel path. No one spoke, each faced the same grim realization. They had escaped with their lives, but at what cost? Eye scanning the lane, Olivia spotted headlights slicing through the darkness. A battered sedan crept toward them, its engine ticking as it slowed. Marcus raised a tentative hand, and the car rolled to a halt beside the curb. The driver's window cracked open, revealing a gaunt man with weathered skin and wary eyes. He wore a flat cap pulled low and chewed something silently, his knuckles white around the steering wheel. "Evening," the man rasped. "You folks lost?" His voice carried a thick regional accent, unfamiliar yet oddly comforting. Olivia swallowed hard and slid onto the back seat, her guitar case thumping against the upholstery. Marcus and Nina piled in beside her, Emil squeezed between the front seats to patch into the warmth of the heater. Lila and Andre followed, their faces drawn and haunted. "Thank you," Olivia managed, voice crackling. We were at Hollow Manor." The words hit the cramped cabin like a chill wind. The driver's eyes narrowed as he inhaled slowly through his nose. "Hollow Manor," he repeated, tone heavy. "You don't say." Olivia clasped her hands in her lap. It's worse than we imagined. There were things in there, beasts, shadows. We barely made it out." The driver's jaw tightened. He glanced at the rearview mirror, studying their reflections as though reading their souls. "I know all about it," he said quietly. "My granny was born in the next village over. Stories say the manor sits on cursed ground, where the veil between here and somewhere dark is thin. Folks hear whispers at midnight, see shapes in the windows." He paused, eyes flicking to the moonlit cornfields. "No one alive has ever stayed the night. None who entered fully sane, none who left without a price." Silence engulfed them as the car sped along a winding country road. The only sound was the engine's pulse and the distant cry of a lonely owl. Olivia pressed her forehead against the cool glass, mind reeling with each revelation. The driver cleared his throat. "I'll drop you at the crossroads up ahead," he offered. "You'll find a bus stop there to get back into town. Stay off these roads after dark." At the crossroads, the sedan glided to a stop beneath a flickering lamppost. Olivia and her friends climbed out, their legs unsteady on the tarmac. The driver handed Olivia a crumpled leaflet, directions and Olivia watched him disappear, her fingers tightening around the leaflet. The road stretched before her, leading back to the safety of streetlights and bustling crowds. Yet as she turned, every shadow seemed to beckon with hidden claws. She tucked the leaflet into her coat pocket and whispered to her companions, "We're never coming back." And with one last glance at the distant silhouette of Hollow Manor, they followed the lampost's glow toward home, haunted forever by the warning that no living soul should ever ignore. Chapter 8, Fear's Final Toll. The city's lights blurred through Olivia's feverish haze as she stumbled up the familiar stairs of her Munster flat. Each breath felt like shards of ice in her chest, her skin smoldering beneath clammy sheets. The horrors of Hollow Manor lingered in her mind's eye, the snapping claws, the endless dawn, the driver's warning, until they bled into her dreams. Sleep offered no refuge, she woke each night drenched in sweat, trembling as distant roars and scratchings echoed through her darkened apartment. By morning, her fever had broken only to rebound sharper. Her limbs ached from exertion and terror alike. The doctor's diagnosis, viral infection, felt absurdly tame compared to the real contagion that fed her nightmares. She lay curled on her sofa, a blanket pooling around her legs, clutching a photograph of her smiling bandmates before the gig. Their faces beamed with excitement, unaware of the peril that awaited them. Now, each memory of that night fetched fresh dread, as though whispering that perhaps none would ever truly escape the mansion's grasp. Word spread quickly through social media and industry chat rooms about Olivia's sudden illness. Colleagues sent well-meant messages, "Get well soon, take your time, rest up." But Olivia knew the truth. Something had returned with her, a resonance of the manor's unnatural time, a strain of its otherworldly presence. Every sip of water tasted metallic. Every shadow in her living room seemed to stretch toward her like a hungry hand. By the fourth day, her temperature soared. She drifted between consciousness and delirium, convinced she heard the manor's iron gates creaking at her front door. When her manager arrived, face drawn with concern, Olivia tried to explain, "It's not just flu, it's something alive. It's inside me." But her words came in pained whispers, her eyes glassy. The manager soothed her with promises of rest and professional care, yet Olivia saw pity flicker behind those assurances. She realized she was alone in the truth she carried. That night, as the moon dipped beneath restless clouds, Olivia's pulse faltered. She lay gasping, shrouded in blankets that felt like stone. In her final moments, memory and reality entwined, the clawed feet at the edge of the stage, the endless sunrise, the driver's grave warning, each image flared bright in her mind, then faded to darkness. Her last thought was not of music or fame, but of the team she left behind, Marcus's steady chords, Nina's heartbeat rhythms, Emil's grounding bass, Lila's comforting harmonies, Andre's soulful solos, and Sam's tireless support. She hoped they had escaped unscarred. Then the fever claimed her completely, and Olivia slipped beyond the boundary between life and whatever lay beyond the manor's cursed threshold. In the weeks that followed, rumors swirled around her sudden passing. Some whispered of a mysterious illness, others claimed she vanished into madness. But those who received her final message, a hastily typed email to her band, marked, "Forgive me," knew only that the shadows of Hollow Manor had reached into the light of London and extinguished a bright, soaring voice forever.